No, you do your thing. Good intro.
Welcome back, guys, to Curious Foods. Today we're gonna make my favorite dish of all time, a classic lasagna. And this is my dad's recipe, so let's just jump right in, shall we? What we need right now is to cook our vegetables and our meats and our sauce together for a very, very long time. Let's start off with cooking our vegetables. So into our pan here, and I'm just gonna fire this up on like a high heat. Gonna add some butter. What the F? I think it didn't like the going on a high heat immediately. Into our pan, a little bit of butter and a little bit of olive oil. And then when that's nice and bubbly, we're gonna throw in our vegetables. What we wanna do is sear off those vegetables just a little bit. First, some grated carrots. Nice. Then our finely chopped onions. And then our finely chopped celery. Now this is a very traditional mix. It's called a mirepoix, I think. And it's used in a lot of Italian cooking. So we want to sear this off and mix it all together for about 5 to 10 minutes just to, soften them up a little bit. So it's very important now that we don't burn these vegetables. That flavor is going to go throughout the sauce, so make sure you have enough oil or butter in the pan to make sure that they don't burn. You know that it's ready when you can see that the onions are becoming a little bit translucent. So now you guys can see that these have softened up quite a bit and the onions are starting to become a little bit translucent. So now we're ready to throw in the rest of our ingredients. The first thing I'm gonna do is just throw in our tomatoes. These are chopped canned tomatoes. They're from Italy. What I want you to do is just try to find the best quality tomatoes that you can. They are generally harvested when they are at their ripest, so most canned tomatoes do taste quite well. I'll mix it all up. And now we're gonna add in our minced meat. What we got here is some minced beef, about 14% fat. Traditionally, it's if you have a mixture of both pork and beef, that will taste amazing. All right, now that our minced meat has been mixed all the way through, the final ingredient, a half a bottle of red wine.
Yay!
The most important thing here is to use a bottle of wine that you actually would drink yourself. Don't pick the cheapest one that you can find.
But I would drink the cheapest one I can find.
I think that says more about you than me, but all right. So we get this nice burgundy red all throughout the sauce. If you think that this has a little bit too less water, even if you've used half of your bottle of wine, what you can do is use these cans, fill them up with a little bit of water, and then put them in. I think this is quite enough, but as you can see, there's a bunch of tomatoes in here, and I want to use everything I can. So, a little bit of water, swish it around, and then we use every last bit of tomato that we have. Now, you want this to sit at a low simmer for anything between 3 and 8 hours. What you want is for this to reduce by at least half its volume, and then we're ready for our sauce. So I'm gonna put this over on the oven, and I'll see you guys in a little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit.
3 to what, 5 hours?
Let's play some video games. While we're waiting for our sauce to get ready, we're gonna be making our white sauce, a bechamel sauce. Now this is brilliant. It can be used for so many things like mac and cheese or even like a cheese fondue. So this is a really brilliant sauce to make. To start off with, we're gonna be using about 20 grams of butter. Actually turn on the hob as well, and it might be a good idea.
It's a little late in the afternoon for you.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I really am. So what we're gonna be baking is a white roux. Basically flour and butter together, mix it all up, cook out the wheat flour, and then adding our milk slowly at a time. So I'm just gonna melt this first, and then we'll throw in the flour. Once that's in, you want to quickly stir it up. I'm gonna put this a little bit down just to give myself a little bit more time. And you can see here that it is getting to like a thick paste, and that is what you want. Okay, cook that out nice and easy. You want to get that flour well cooked out so that it's none of that raw flavor of the flour left. It's already starting to smell really good. Okay, and now add a little bit of our milk at a time. But just a little bit at first, and it's still going to be quite thick. See, we're getting this paste again with our milk. And this way, if you do it in this technique where you just pour a little bit of milk at a time, then you'll make sure that you don't have any lumps in your end flour. Just keep working it. Keep working it. And here you can see it's starting to get together here. Still has a little bit of that lumpy texture. Okay, and then the rest of our milk. Or not the rest, but a little more of our milk. From here on out, it's actually easier to use a whisk. Because now you're going to start going over to a thick sauce rather than a doughy texture. So you know you're supposed to pour in more milk when you see that the texture of your sauce is starting to become consistent. So when it's all the same consistency and there's no milk left and there's no difference between, you know, the dough and the milk, that's when you know put in some more. So now it's getting there a little bit more. Just continue whisking it off, continue whisking it off. And then I'm gonna have, just continue to stir, never let it sit for its own, and this should not split and should not have any lumps at your end product. When we're done with all our milk, now we can actually cook it down, make it more thick if we want, or we can leave it like this. I want a little bit more thickness before we let this go. I put it on a bit higher heat now just to allow this process to go a little bit faster, but be very careful when you're doing that because as we've experienced before, milk in a ball. Yeah. I'm just gonna watch it. Exciting TV. See, now it's bubbling already. So now I'm gonna reduce the heat so that it doesn't overpower us. Just let it bubble away until you get that consistency that you don't want. You don't want it too thick, but you don't want it to taste and feel like milk. Okay, next steps. Now that I have the consistency I want, I'm gonna add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. You don't have to, but I like it because then you get a little bit of that cheesy flavor into the white sauce of our lasagna. Okay, mix it through, and then a little bit of black pepper. And for a fine little piece, a little bit of nutmeg. And whisk it through. And that is our bechamel sauce ready to go. Finally, it is time to start prepping our lasagna. In a oven-proof bowl, you want to start with a layer of our meat sauce. This is really, really thick, so you don't need a lot per layer. And just squeeze it out through the entire part of your dish. Once that's covered, we add our cheesy bechamel sauce. All right, you don't need a lot of this. Just, again, try to cover pretty much the entire basin. And this is what's going to give that characteristic lasagna taste, that fusion of the bechamel and the meat sauce. All right, so just layer it up, and this is actually really perfect because it covers the entire thing. Often I have to like break off pieces to make it fit, but this is actually pretty much perfect, which I think is the first time for me. A tiny little bit of Parmesan, not a lot, just a little bit here. And this is gonna infuse our pasta with a little bit of that cheesy sauce. And now we just repeat. So the only thing that you really need to be careful about here is that all your pasta plates are covered significantly with sauce, because otherwise you run the risk of them being dry when they come out. So especially on the top layer, make sure that everything's covered. Okay, and now the cheese.
But I mean, you could put any cheese you want on here, right?
Yeah. I like the Parmesan because it's very salty and it like cuts through that heavy meat sauce. This goes into the oven for about 40 minutes. Just keep an eye on it so that the top does not get burnt. About 200 degrees Celsius. So our lasagna is finally finished.
Finally.
Let's get it out of the oven. Oh, careful with the hot air coming out, and then try to get this out without destroying it.
Well, that took a while.
It's gonna be worth it though, hopefully. Let's dig in.
That is so smooth. It just melts in the mouth.
It's perfect. It takes a while to make, but trust me, it's definitely worth it.
Just remember to eat something while you make it.
Yeah. Pro tip though, have some pepper on the side, serve it with a salad or some bread and butter, and it's gonna be delicious. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.